rFactor 2 is a fantastically diverse and realistic racing sim, but it's also one of the most daunting for beginners. If you've been playing the rFactor series since the first game arrived in 2005, all the settings menus and loading in different series probably makes perfect sense to you. If you haven't, however, you might be wondering how to even get on track in the car that you want. That's totally understandable, and lucky for you, totally fixable too in a quick YouTube video. So let's get stuck in. The first thing to keep in mind about the rFactor series is that it was made originally for modding. When it boils down to it, this is basically a base of operation for many different racing series, all with different handling behaviour and physics models. And because of that, it doesn't always dial in your preferred settings automatically. Case in point, controls. Whether you use a wheel or a controller, you'll want to head into the settings menu and check to see if the game already has a profile set up for your device. If it does, that's a great start, but it's not the end of the world if it doesn't. In either case, it's worth googling around to check forum posts and guides on how to set up the dead zones, linearity, and force feedback values of your device to perfection. There's no point putting serious practice laps in until you feel totally comfortable with your controls, otherwise you're losing time wrestling with your device instead of directly with the car. How do you know when you've got it right? Well, when you use a wheel, the driver's hands should move at roughly the same rate yours do on the wheel itself. With a controller, it's all about smoothing the steering inputs so that the driver's hands don't jerk around rapidly, and finding that sweet spot in sensitivity that lets you take hairpins and flat out corners with equal confidence. Right, now your steering wheel's been tamed, it's time to decide what sort of racing you actually want to do. There's a pile of official developer-made content bigger than a Top Gear presenter's dad jeans collection, and I guarantee it's 100% more enjoyable to try on. So head to Studio 397's items in the Steam Workshop and have a browse. As with any sim that offers different categories of racing like road legal vehicles, GT cars and open wheelers, it's worth keeping in mind that these different disciplines all need their own practice. You won't get better at gunning a 720S around the track by putting in the hours with an F1 car. So if you're thinking about competing in multiplayer races, it's worth choosing your specialty nice and early. Finally, it's time to start driving. And what you'll notice straight away about rFactor 2 is that it's not the kind of game you can just fling a car around in while listening to a podcast and having a chat to someone. It's a really demanding simulation, and if you're coming to it green, you'll probably outbrake yourself, get on the power too early and spin off the track, and spend as much time in the gravel traps as on the tarmac. And that is absolutely fine, it's part of the process. But rather than trying to set one amazing lap time, instead focus on setting 10 laps that are all within about a second of each other. If that means slowing right off the pace, so be it. And in a game with such an online multiplayer focus as rFactor 2, that consistency will come in much handier than the ability to bash out one incredible lap over the course of a session. Once you've arrived at that sim racing nirvana where you're able to stay on the track pretty consistently and your lap times don't fluctuate like a Richter scale during an earthquake, you're ready to share the track with a few competitors. The AI drivers in rFactor 2 will offer pretty stiff competition in their own right, but it's multiplayer races where you'll really learn racecraft because other drivers there react to you and put their own moves on you. The best way to find races is to join a league where racers sign up and agree to take part in scheduled events over weeks or even months. But if that sounds like a bit of a commitment when you're still learning the ropes, head to the rFactor 2 general discussion forums and you'll often find info on single sessions people have just created. You can also find car setups here or on racedepartment.com's forums. When you do enter online races, go easy through the first few turns, avoid contact at all costs, and focus on putting in lap after lap on the edge of your ability. You can't win a race if you're not in it anymore, after all. Right, that's rFactor 2 bossed then. Just spend a bit of time dialing in your controls until they feel just right, then install some mods and practice your consistency before diving into races, taking it steady in the opening lap and putting all that consistency practice to good use. You'll be topping the session timesheets in no time. We hope that helped you get up to speed with rFactor 2 without too many dramas. If you're already a bit of an expert on the sim, however, we'd love to hear your tips for beginners below and let us know any suggestions for further rFactor 2 content in the comments too. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the vid and remember to subscribe so you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.